Hey now, Grizz here, back at it again with another pretty sweet little knife that caught my eye. Something I've been hunting for a while. This is a Remington scout knife. Yeah, buddy. This is the model 3333. I believe this one, this dates somewhere between like 1924 to 1933, probably towards the later end of that. This material on the scales is interesting. This is what they call pyramite, but from my understanding, it's just their trade name for Delrin, which is the same as the Celador. It's just that type of thermoset plastic that was widely available at the time. These particular examples are in pretty wonderful shape, all things considered. Really, I mean, they haven't shrunk. A lot of these plastics, they do this thing called off-gassing, which means they didn't really have the formulations right. You know, plastics are made through like insanely complex, you know, chemical reactions left over from petroleum products, from refining, you know, crude oil into gasoline, basically. And so what happens is if it's not the right gases, whatever they use in the materials back then, some of it would basically, they called it off-gassing. It would return to a gas state. So you would basically lose, the scales would just shrink and you would see the ends exposed that pop the rivets. You see it all the time. But the reason I know that is because it's frequently mentioned again in the guitar world. The original Fender pickguard, when they started putting plastics on guitars, they had the same thing with the guys would take a guitar out of a case after 20 years and the plastic would be all crumpled up inside of it and all yellowish. And yeah, it's just the plastics today are much more durable. So when you find examples like this, or even like this is a Boker camp knife. These are the same materials. This is, Boker calls it Delrin. Remington called it pyramite. It's the exact same thing. So what do we got here? We've got these very slimly lined bolsters. That cattle knife I showed the other day, that there's a little bit more space between the scale and the line. This line is very close to the end of the bolster. We've got a nice little bail. It's not as tall as some of the bails. I actually like that. Some of the bails are like, get kind of longish. Like even this Ulster one is kind of bigger than it needs to be, you know, but not by much. Some of the other ones are truly ridiculous. Anyway, let's get into it. First up, let's start with this way. Let's start with the cap lifter flathead screwdriver setup. Yeah, you know, it's a nice, this is a great tool here. You know, it's got a little bit more length than your typical cap lifters, and I wonder what this is for. They kind of did, I mean, I can tell it's from the factory, but there's like this angle ground into there. So I don't know if that was to, you know, punch through I don't know what that was for, but that's pretty cool that it's there. Maybe just for marking boards or scoring drywall or something like that, it would work totally. Very cool. Great snap on that tool. Next up, we've got what really makes this cool. Now, you know, that one day I gave Boker a pretty hard time over that two-piece can opener, and I would like to just apologize because when I saw this thing, I was like, my word, like, what were they thinking? But, you know, it's still, these are very cool can openers. I really like that it says Remington on it, has the patent number. So you see, again, much like, do I have that Boker knife handy? Of course I don't. Why would I have it? Why would I prepare for what I'm doing? I mean, come on here. Let's act professional for once. But again, it's two sheets of metal that, yeah, see those little dots? So it's been spot welded. And probably, you know, what do they call that? Forge welded too, but yeah, very cool. But I know I've seen plenty of these broken. This one's in kind of rough shape. It's amazing that it's still here. It's clearly had a lot of pitting. Whoever had this did a heck of a lot of cleaning on it. I got a good deal on it. I think it's in pretty good shape, especially for my first one. You'll see the other issues with this knife, but this is a great carry knife. Like if you just want to carry one of these old knives and not worry if you lose it or break it, this is a great example of that, and that's exactly what I intend to do with it. Next up, let's go for the reamer. I've got a nice little thumb divot in the reamer. Let me show you the back. There is a crack in the scale there, but again, a cover. Sorry, knife. Sorry, nerds with a K. It's the cover. Check out this reamer, this punch. This is a nice little punch here, and this is truly what I call a punch. It's got sharp edge. It's got this cutout area. It's clearly meant for making circular or like actually not even circular, like you know, like oval type holes, like a belt loop would go through. You know, they're usually not just a perfectly round hole. They're somewhat oblong, and you punch it through this way and then turn it this way, turn it 180 degrees, and you pop out the other corner and you get a nice clean punch out with it. It's a very cool system. But I mean, clearly this has been sanded and stuff, but I'm not mad at them. I mean, I got this thing for 26 bucks, so I can't really complain about it. And frankly, it's in great shape. You do got, the springs are a little proud back here, you know, but nothing like some other ones I've seen. This is certainly acceptable quality control here. You know, I'm not going to have to call Remington UMC and complain about this one. Okay, at least. Anyway, finally, we've got the main blade. And let's talk about the main blade here. So your typical scout blade looks something like this guy. And this guy does not. Because, yeah, what they did is, what it looks like to me is somebody broke the tip or changed it to a clip blade. Who knows? I mean, it's still fairly substantially long. So, you know, if it did break, it didn't break by much. But, you know, or maybe they just fancied themselves a clip blade. But that's definitely a home job. That is not the default shape of this knife. They even went to the trouble to put a little swedge on it. I'm not mad at them. That's exactly the kind of stuff I would do. And frankly, I like this blade. I really like it. And it's got a nice little edge on it. It's a great little blade. And I love the character of it. You know, the pitting, the color. You know, with this old carbon steel, just has so much character to it. I mean, stainless steel is great. Don't get me wrong, but come on, man. That's just cool right there. So yeah, man, keep this one short. Check out the shield. She's a little wonky there. I don't know what happened. Somebody must have did this after a 3-beer lunch or something. That or this was propped out and popped back in, which is equally as like I could see it either way. This could totally be original, or this could totally be a parts knife. If it is a parts knife, they did a wonderful job. I'm always suspicious of these knives. I know there's a lot of talk about, you know, the knives on eBay. They're all fixed, cobbled together. They've all been monkeyed. I always see the term monkeyed with. I don't know why, but knife guys like to say monkeyed with, which certainly has a bad implication to it. I think there's nothing wrong with it as long as you advise the customers that you're selling a parts knife. You know what I mean? And I think it's a great way to save the knives. And you know what happens to these part knives? Somebody like me puts one together, and of course I sell it to somebody, and I tell them it's a handmade, you know, a homemade jobber. But then they sell it to somebody, and, you know, did they necessarily tell somebody that the guy that they bought it from, you know, 3 people back, you know, is the one that put it together? No, it's you got to use your own eyes. You really got to look at these things. I'm always suspicious if the bolsters are really shiny and heavily sanded. Like, that always makes me think the pins have been out and in, because that's the main reason to do a real hard job, is to get that pin. It's really hard to get those pins to blend back in to the bolsters, you know. Because really, here you can see it. This could be factory. This could have been replaced. I think this is factory. I don't really care that much. This is going to be a carry one. And this is my first Remington Scout knife. And it's not my last. I have a junior Scout coming later this week. That's in immaculate condition. But it also costs an immaculate price. But that's going to be one for maybe weddings and funerals. This is going to be one for, like, maybe when I go fishing or something like that. So, anyway, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. R3333 out.